Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second edition of CSR Soapbox. I'm Leigh Feltham. I'm the Associate Director at Complete Security Recruitment, and joining me is Tony Harding from Trinity Fire and Security. We're here to have a chat with Tony about his development and the way he's progressed within the industry and what paths he's gone down.
Yeah, thanks for that, Leigh. Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Tony Harding. I work for a company called Trinity Fire and Security. I'm currently there as a field line manager. I've been doing it for 3.5 years now, and it's been going really well so far.
Good. And you've got quite a long history within the industry, haven't you, Tony?
Yeah, so I've literally been an engineer. So I started as an engineer from 2001. I come into the industry. So I've been in the industry for some time now, and I've literally, worked my work efforts all the way from becoming, starting as an engineer, working all the way through as a project engineer, commissioning engineer, to service supervisor. And then I got the opportunity to come into Trinity as a compliance manager. And then I had another opportunity to become as a field line manager. So yeah, I've had different career paths all the way through, starting from the scratch and working to where I am now.
Good. And you're relatively young as a service manager, to be fair, aren't you?
Yeah, so I officially become a service manager at 38. And in fairness, that was one of my sort of ambitions and goals. I always wanted to inspire to become a service manager by the time I was 40. So it was my ambition and target to do what I needed to do to just go through the career path that I needed to go through to become a service manager. Mm-hmm. And I beat my expectation by 2 years. So I was happy with that.
It's nice to have targets and exceed them, isn't it? And your role at the moment is probably full of them, isn't it?
It sure is, mate. It sure is.
And Tony, how old was you when you entered the industry?
So I first come in the industry, I think I was around about when I was 21, 22. So I first started off leaving school, not with great grades, in fairness. I managed to get onto an electrical apprenticeship. So I did an electrical apprenticeship for 4 years. And then after I went through my apprenticeship and become a qualified electrician. One of my first jobs actually was to install a fire alarm system, and it was from that inspired me then to get into the fire alarm industry. Because once I was doing the works on a fire alarm system, I thought, okay, why in a ring as your loop, as you call it, and a couple conventional sounder circuits. You didn't have to worry about all your different switch lines and your color coding and all the different kind of regulations that you had as an electrician. So it was something that inspired me to get into, and then I just took it from there. I got an opportunity to work for a fire alarm company in early 2002, something like that, and then my career just went on from there.
And in terms of that apprenticeship into the electrical field, how did that come about? Was that something that you thought of one day, I want to do it, or was it something that you accidentally stumbled upon?
No, to be completely honest with you, Leigh, it was all inspired by my cousin. My cousin always said to me that you need to get a trade behind you. No matter what you do with your life, just try and get a trade behind you, and that will give you the foundations of anything in the future. And when I was a young lad, when I was in my senior school, he would always ring me up and say, look, it's the 6 weeks holiday. Would you like to come and work with me? And I'll show you the ropes to see if you like to become an electrician, because he was already a qualified electrician. And then after that, once he knew I left school, he helped me to succeed into an electrical apprenticeship with a company that he was working for. So I owe a lot of credit to him, really. Because he inspired me to be where I am today. If it wasn't for his input and work effort attitude, I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for him.
Yeah, it's a different world today. You don't see so many youngsters sort of trying to get a trade behind them now. I think most of them want to be influencers and be on the web and do all sorts of fancy weird things, but not so many of them don't seem that interested in getting a solid background and a trade behind them these days. So I think that's something very much that is missing from, you know, today, and the way that the industry is struggling to replace people.
Yeah, most definitely. You know, I think, you know, the modern youngsters of today are very busy and educated into computing and technology. So, you know, a lot of people are not aware about the skilled trade, you know, and it's just trying to get that message to the youngsters to understand. You know, I was very lucky. I had the guidance of my cousin who built that into me to say, look, no matter what you decide to do later on in life, if as long as you've got a trade behind you, like I said before, it's a big foundation to your career path. And, you know, if I didn't have that advice from him, I don't know where I would be today, in fairness, because at a young age, yeah, at a young age, it's you know, you're so overwhelmed when you've done your education, your GCSEs, you don't know where you want to be or what you want to do. And unless someone comes to you and has a direct conversation, which I was lucky enough to have my cousin to do that, he gave me the guidance to become an electrician, and they say, like, sort of the rest is history, really.
No, it's an interesting story. You know, I'm always intrigued at how people get into the industry, and I don't think anybody just wakes up one day and says, right, what's that on the wall? That's a fire alarm thing. Oh, what's that? Oh, that's interesting. I think I'll go and do that as an industry. It's just one of those things that people are just oblivious about it.
Well, that's right. And because I was an electrician, that got me exposed to what a fire alarm system was. If I weren't an electrician, I wouldn't know what a fire alarm system was. You know, in fairness, or what's involved in a fire alarm system. So it's only the fact that I went through the industry of becoming an electrician that I come across what a fire alarm system is and what it does, and how important the system is. Yeah. And then again, that's another key factor. What decided me to change from becoming an electrician to a fire alarm engineer was the sort of understanding of how important that system is. You know, it's protecting lives and property, and I wanted to be involved in that.
And that's the one of the big reasons that the industry's kept your interest, is it? The fact that it is so life safety related.
Oh, definitely, because it gives you that sense of satisfaction that you're doing something for the greater good, so to speak. I can remember when I was an engineer, and I used to service and maintain the big towers and blocks in Canary Wharf, so to speak, and you know, and you see the incident that happened at 9/11, and how important that fire alarm system is to evacuate people in a safe manner. You know, you do take this job I took this job very serious, and you then realise and understand how important it is doing a fire alarm maintenance job. You know, you are doing the job purely to protect the life of the people in that building and potentially the property itself, and it gives you that sort of satisfaction.
And do you think that's a driving factor behind a lot of engineers in the industry now, that sense of responsibility? Or do you think that's sort of something some do and some don't on an individual basis?
I think it's on an individual basis, to be fair, and their own personality with the job. For me, it was definitely a key factor. You know, it was a key factor for me to go that path, and while I was doing the job. In other people, you know, yes, let's not be fooled. It does pay well, but it does ask for some demanding hours and time frames. But for me, it was the self satisfaction that, you know, once you walked away from a job and you did a maintenance and you knew it was fully working and compliant, you know, you was doing a good job.
And it's a great industry, you know. There's so much going on and so much to learn, so much development. in the industry, and it, you know, even as recruiters, we learn stuff on a daily basis that we're not technical, but we just pick things up through talking to people. And you'll be having a conversation with someone and they'll say about a piece of equipment. You go, what's that? What does it do? I've never heard of that, you know, and it just spawns off conversations, which is great for someone like myself, because I'm just inquisitive, and if I don't know, I'll ask, you know, it's as simple as that.
Yes, I'll just touch base on that really. So there's two things for me. One of the first times I got into the fire alarm industry, you know, for me, a fire alarm system was all about just smoke detectors detecting fire and sounders going off, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I had the first conversation with a senior engineer, and he informed me about, no, it doesn't just do setting off sounders and detect fire. We shut down lifts. We do phase evacuation. Then we start plant equipment. And we start smoke extracts, fans, etc. And I was absolutely amazed how complex a fire alarm system is involved in the whole building service strategy of the system working in together to obviously make sure people evacuate safely.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And a lot of the big places have got PAVA as well, haven't they? So rather than the alarm, they've got the verbal commands.
And that's right. You've got the L public address, which obviously interacts with the fire alarm system, which helps to phase evacuation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And in your mind, do you think that stops people from panicking so much?
Yes, I think it can do. I think sometimes, you know, I've seen it in the past where, you know, a PA system goes off, people, probably might not react to it straight away. It all depends really in the incident that it happens. You know, in the past, I've been to buildings where, you know, if you get so many false activations, people just can become complacent. Quite crazy, in fairness.
Yeah, fair play. So that's good. And you know, along your path, who have been the influential people? You know, you've already mentioned one that introduced you into the industry and into the world of electronics, and then that's spurred off into the industry. Who else has influenced your career path and shaped who you are today?
In fairness, I'd say the key person was my cousin. You know, I owe a lot to my cousin in kind of influence and work ethic and attitude, you know, and how graft he's always been. And I've always looked at other people in senior positions or senior roles throughout my career. I don't have a specific person, apart from my cousin, really, that gave me that influence or inspired me. But then when I saw people that I used to work for as managers, and then I used to see how they used to manage people, I could see their downfalls. So it gave me sort of the hunger to become a manager, because I knew from that then, at that moment, I thought, well, if I was a manager, I would deal with things differently, and I think you would get a better, more productive output from it.
So you adopted some of their good habits and not done the things that you've spotted that were influencing people to go the other way.
No, exactly that, and I think that's what's probably helping me become the good manager that I believe I am today. Is that I'm one of those managers that come from the ground, from literally from going into the industry, not knowing nothing about a fire alarm system, but putting all the years and experience of being a service engineer, fault finding, commissioning, projecting, supervising, giving me a real good foundation and understanding. So then when I am a manager, I fully understand the engineers' sort of challenges that they have on a day-to-day basis. And I feel that I can give them the support as a manager to think of a way forward for a solution.
Yeah, it's something we hear as recruiters quite a bit, of people moaning that if their managers aren't technical, or come from the same background. And there's a lot of companies that don't have technical managers. They might be very good people, but what they don't understand is the technical aspect. So when an engineer phones them and says, I can't complete this job, I need a bit of help, they're then referred away from that manager, and they don't understand why they can't do it and offer some guidance and some assistance. And it seems that with those companies, they tend to struggle a little bit more than the companies like yourselves at Trinity, when most of the managers are technical, do understand all the pitfalls of what goes on a day-to-day basis for an engineer.
No, that's right. I think it makes a massive difference. As I say, I haven't become a manager because I've done a university degree, or I've got fantastic grades. I've become a manager because of my work ethic, my go-to attitude, and the fact that I'm through my work experience and knowledge, it's got me to where I am today. And that there's nothing better for me to give that knowledge out to my engineers to help them succeed and become whatever they decide to be in the future.
Yeah, I know. So you take great pride in the mentoring of your guys. It's something that the feedback that we've had when we occasionally spoken to engineers, that when we've placed them with you, and then when we speak to them on a regular basis, that's the feedback we get, is the mentoring is very, very good from your side, and you've always looked after people and tried to help them along their way and give them help and advice from your experience, which has always been good. And what did you do? Was there anything specific you did to invest in your future, Tony? Did you adopt certain attitudes or work ethics or financial investment into training courses or anything yourself?
For me, it was purely having a go-to attitude. That was a key drive for me. Like I said, in fairness, I didn't come out of school with the fantastic GCSE grades. I weren't clever enough to go to university where I didn't feel. But I didn't want that to stop any kind of opportunity to develop. So for me, it was all about having that go-to attitude, having a positive attitude to succeed in life, come over any kind of barriers or challenges that you come across. Try and work out your comfort zone, because when you work out your comfort zone, that's when you learn. Every day, to me, every day is a learning day. But each day that you learn, and you learn from your mistakes. We all make mistakes in the past.
Don't we, Jason?
But it's what you do about the mistakes and how you overcome them that makes the person who you are today. And in fairness, I take great pride in the fact that I've got here for where I am today purely due to hard graft and hard commitment and dedication to wanting to succeed in myself and make something out of myself. I just didn't want to settle to be a service engineer or a commission engineer. Like I said, I've always inspired to become a manager. That was sort of like my aim goal, and I wanted to do it by the time I'm 40. So I set out certain boundaries of challenges for myself to succeed and learn. That meant I worked through different companies to understand how they operate and get different experiences. And luckily enough, I'm working for a company now that's now given me the opportunity to become the manager that I've always wanted to be.
That's good. And in terms of training courses or anything, did you self-fund anything along the way?
The only one that I self-funded on the way was my electrical course, because unfortunately, again, I wasn't very good at school, so I failed my 2361 part 1 and part 2. I think they originally called it, but again, it's something that I wanted to achieve for myself. So once I was settled back down doing my electrical apprenticeship, I went back into college. I did I found that college didn't really work for me. Doing like a day release. I found out going to one of those colleges that gives you more like an intense 3-week training course, and they look after you and give you more one-to-one tuition, worked out much better for me. So I managed to get my qualifications to become a fully qualified electrician. And then the other courses that I've gained is through working for different companies. That's obviously, strengthened my position to where I am today.
Yeah, and it's always a big topic, training. Would you encourage engineers to self-fund courses if they're not getting it from their own companies?
That's a good question. I don't think it's right for an engineer to self-fund his own courses to succeed. He should be trying to be working for a company that should be able to give him the opportunity of those courses, depending what those courses are. But in fairness, if you want to achieve something in life, there's no reason why you wouldn't want to take that attitude. If I want to succeed succeed in life, I will self-fund a course myself to give me that sort of one step forward against the others, so to speak. Yeah,
it's an interesting point, and there's two trains of thought on that, and I don't think there's a right or a wrong. Obviously, there are some very good companies out there that do put their guys on training, and I think there's some other companies out there where the guys are left frustrated. So it's a case of, would they invest their own money, and some of them do, to differentiate themselves and invest in their own career, and invest in their knowledge, and sometimes it can make them more attractive to bigger and better companies that may not look at them if they haven't got certain qualifications. But it's good way of doing things if people have got the funding to do it and the opportunity. But
that's right.
Again, it's money and time, and time is where a lot of people in this industry suffer, because it's a demanding industry in that respect.
It is, mate. It is.
Certainly is. You touched on it a little bit earlier, actually. Thinking back, were there examples of some really great managers that helped to inspire you, and potentially some bad ones whose leadership styles that you've learned from and adopted within your own style? You mentioned it ever so slightly earlier on, but is there any examples of that you can give, and so on?
Yeah, I was working for one company once, and I was pretty new into the industry, in fairness, so I didn't have a lot of experience about fire alarm systems at all. So I was just getting to grips what a fire alarm system is and what it does. And then one day I got called to do a job at a site that I didn't know, and I didn't know the system. So when I arrived at this particular site, I arrived up, I'm new into the industry. I'm just getting my head around the certain system that they mainly maintain, so to speak. But this particular site had a completely different fire alarm system. And I just didn't know how to work it. I didn't know how to disable it. I didn't know how to make it safe. I just didn't know even to put it in test mode, because I've never come across this panel before. And because I hadn't been in the industry long enough, usually, if you've been in the industry for 2 to 3 years, it doesn't matter what panel you work on, you can normally work your way through any kind of panel, because you get the gist of the menus and you understand it. But at that point in time, I was very new to the industry, so I couldn't even work out how to get through to the menu structure, etc. And I didn't have any passwords. And I felt massively let down by the company, because I thought they've put me in a situation here where I'm completely out of my comfort zone, and there was no support. I rang my supervisor. He never come across that panel before, so he didn't know the answers either. And yet I was expected to do a service. So I rightly so, in my own mind, decided to refuse to do the service. But of course, because I refused to do the service, it made the company look unprofessional. And come the following day, I was asked to come to the office to see the manager. And in fairness, the manager gave me a right telling off for not doing the job. I argued the point to say I've never come across this system before. I weren't getting support from the supervisor. but he put it down to me as that was my problem, my issue, you know. And for me, I learned, I took that as an example to remember going forward, that if you ever have an engineer who's never worked on a system, you know, always make sure they have the support or training to get them through. You know, we can't always put engineers on every single panel training, because there's so many panels out there, but there's always, for me now, I would always give them the opportunity to help them and support them and give them as much information to get them through that job. But the position that company put me under, there was no support, there was no help, there's no understanding. It was just a case of, you should know better. Well, I've just started the industry, so yeah. So I learned that experience, and that to me, I always said to myself, I don't want to be in a position or put my engineers in that position. I would always want them to feel comfortable doing their job. So that was a key example, really.
Yeah, it happens. We do hear it that companies take on a new contract and engineers go out to the new sites, and then they're faced with new equipment from, you know, companies that they take over systems, and they've never seen it before, they've never worked on it, never had any training on it, and it just amazes me that there are companies that still do that. You know, you'd think they'd know what's on a site and get their guys trained up on it, especially if it's, you know, like a lot of the instances of that are large nationals, when they take over a large national contract for, you know, the likes of Tesco's or Marks and Spencer's or whatever it is. So they know what's in these places, but hey, it happens. For an engineer or someone starting out in this industry, what would be your biggest piece of advice to them?
My biggest advice to them is always, again, have the go-to attitude. Don't ever have a defeatist attitude or can't do attitude. It's always good to have an engineer that's prepared to try and push themselves to you know, sort of their boundaries of trying to get through something that they might not, you know, dealt with before. But the fact that they have the go-to attitude, you say, you know what, I will give it a go, as long as they've got the support from the management or the supervisors, well, of course. But yeah, someone with a go-to attitude is definitely a key factor, and someone who always thinks outside the box. You know, I could give you a great example of this, and it just happened this week, actually. We had an engineer who unfortunately was on call. He was on call all night due to emergency call-outs, and he was booked to do a service the following day. So he informed us to say he won't be in today because obviously he needs to rest because he's been out all night. And but he politely gave us an email to say, look, I'm booked in to do this service. And he emailed of all the devices that still needed to be tested to complete it to 100%. So it's that forward thinking, that forward planning, and that initiative from that engineer that will definitely, you know, put you outside the rest of the engineers. You know, it was something that I was really impressed to see, that how an engineer is thinking outside the box and how he's trying to help the business to make sure that we don't fail to deliver that service, or an engineer turns up that day and then ends up servicing the same devices or whatever it may be. He's actually gave clear instructions of what is left to be tested to make sure that we can do 100% test.
Yeah, so he's already thinking, well, I can't get there, but how can I make someone else's life that little bit easier and make the business look a lot more professional?
Exactly.
No, it's good. It's nice when people think like that and look out for each other. You've obviously got a good team there that are very focused on helping each other out. She's good.
That's what, in fairness, Lee, I think that's one of the key things that we've got. We've got such a good team morale, you know, with our engineers who communicate with each other and to ourselves. And because, you know, I'm from an engineering background, I keep quite grounded with the engineers to understand all the ins and outs of what's going on with these sites. And that helps us to achieve where we are.
No, it's nice to hear, and you do find that organisations that have got that group of people that do stick together and help each other out and have got each other's backs are the ones that succeed, and people enjoy working for them when they know someone else has got their back. It's trust element, I guess, is probably a big thing that drives teams and groups of people to work together well. It's a big factor. And if an engineer is looking to progress in an organisation, what behaviours and work methods would you advise them to include into their daily routine? Is there anything that jumps out at you?
Yeah, for me, it'll be having don't carry out any shortcuts by any means, because it's not an industry to carry out shortcuts. And what I mean by that is, when you're writing a report on a system that you've just maintained, don't just put down service 25%, all tested okay, all working okay. It's having that detail to your report in your service report. It's really key for us, and how clearly that you present that detail. If you come across an engineer that does, can do all the hard work, but if they don't put it down in writing, you don't get the true story or the understanding of the service if they don't put that bit of effort into their service report. So to me, having just as detailed as a service report as the work effort and input that you put into your service is really important, and that will help you stand out from other engineers.
Okay, good stuff. And obviously, the big question that's buzzing around at the moment is what can the industry do to attract new talent? We've got an industry that's got an aging workforce, lots of vacancies out there at the moment, and not so many candidates to fill them, and an industry that doesn't really appear as a whole to be doing much to encourage people into it.
Yeah, personally, I think there's a number of things that we need to, as an industry, we need to start looking into more seriously. One, it would be obviously offering apprenticeships. Mm-hmm. For not just for youngsters who come out of school, but definitely adult apprenticeships, and that's definitely key for me. Someone might decide to, through their midlife, decide to change their career, and I think we should try and help them and give them that opportunity, especially where we've got such a shortage in our industry. And the other thing for me, that I would like to personally start looking into as maybe an opportunity, is look at armed forces, where people in armed forces go into the armed forces and do their time, whether it be 5 years, 10 years, and they do like an electrical or electronic background in that armed forces. But once they've done their time and they want to come out the army, I think that may be key for us to potentially to try and invest and look into that option, as people from the armed forces may come out and want a career in the normal sort of world that we live in. And because they've got some kind of electrical, electronic understanding and background, maybe that'd be a good opportunity to look into what that may offer. I don't know if that's something that other industries or businesses are already looking into, but for me, I think that might be an opportunity to attract more people into this industry.
Yeah, totally agree with you. It's a strange you bring that up, because I was having virtually the same conversation yesterday with one of my other clients, who himself was ex-forces when he came into the industry, and I was talking to him about a candidate that I've got that is struggling to get into the industry, wants to get in. He's from signalling, so he's been through all the telecommunication courses and everything that the army can offer. He's got a good background with CCTV, but because he doesn't do intruder and access control, companies are shying away from him and saying, well, yeah, you've got some of the knowledge, but we want an engineer to hit the ground running, which is the old adage, isn't it? Everybody wants someone to step straight into the shoes of the person that's left, which it's difficult, you know, when there is a finite supply of engineers. So I think it's a great idea, because a lot of these guys have got some brilliant skills. They're disciplined, and they're used to structure and following instructions. So with something like that, I think that's a fantastic idea, Tony. You know, there's so few people that offer that for guys like that. And is that something personal to you, or?
No, it's I won't say it's personal to me, but it's just something that I've, looking on social media myself, I see that there's an opportunity there really, of armed forces coming out of their time, but then being a bit stagnant and have nowhere to go after that. And I think, I've from sort of my past history, I've come across armed services. And one of their biggest fear factors coming out of the army, because, they don't know what they're walking into. They don't have nothing to walk back into, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I think it might be an opportunity. If someone's done an electrical or electronic kind of studying or factor into their armed forces, it might be something that may be worth a shout.
No, definitely. And as you say, adult apprenticeships to step into would be ideal. Yes, they've got a good solid background in terms of discipline, structure, and so on and so forth, and some electrical knowledge or some technology knowledge that can cross over. So, it's a great idea, and it would certainly be something that I think a lot of those guys would welcome, because, as you say, with apprenticeships, people always seem to pitch them at a young level opposed to, a late 20s or an early 30s person that is looking for a change of career, but has still got that ability to absorb all that information and training.
That's right, and the thing that I've learned through my years of experience and from what I see now, sometimes you could have you can have the individual that might have all the qualifications and all the experience, but if they don't have the right attitude, that they won't be the engineer that you want them to be. I think for me, sometimes I think a better success of an engineer can well be an engineer that might not have the greatest of experience, but if they've got a definitely go-to attitude, a positive attitude, and determination attitude, they will become the better engineer. And I've seen that with my own eyes.
Well, you live in proof of it, aren't you? Really?
Yeah.
You've progressed through it. All the different roles, the different companies that you've worked for, picked up all that experience and had that goal in mind of, right, by the time I'm 40, I want to be a service manager. I want to be able to be a leader, inspiring people, helping people to improve their knowledge, skills, and potentially careers. And it's something it's important to have targets to aim for, which is great. So, Tony, when you're not at work, which is probably rare, because I know you put the hours in and you spend a lot of time on the phone chasing people and sorting things out and talking to your clients. What do you do to unwind? What's your escape?
My escapism is definitely for me to go and do like hiking and explore some mountains. So I thoroughly enjoy that. I'm so busy in the hustle and bustle of London and the constant phone going and emails going. I can't think of a better remedy than going out to open space, open air, no signal, no technology, and just hike up some mountains and let your mind rest for a while and look at some amazing views and give yourself a challenge. I always like to set at some pedestals in my own time and targets. Last weekend, funny enough, I've got one this weekend. I'm doing a national free peak challenge in 24 hours, and it's to remind yourself who you are and what you can achieve when you set out your own goals. Because I've become a service manager, it doesn't mean that's it. I'm complacent. I always feel like I need to set myself some other goals, and that keeps me going, keeps me ticking, and it makes me realise that if you set yourself new targets, new achievements, you become a better person and a better individual and a stronger person. So yeah, that's what I do.
It's nice. Everybody needs that escape to just shut off. And as you say, there's nothing better than the great outdoors, fresh air, no signal on the phone, no emails, no nothing, and just that pure escape and shut off and a bit of time to yourself. We all need it. We've all got lives outside of work, which are always busy and stressful as well as work. So you need a bit of me time every now and again.
Yeah,
And a challenge.
Yes, and you got to have that balance. You've always got to have that life and work balance. Yeah, it's no good just keep on working and working and working. You got to have that bit of balance, and for me, that's why I like to go away for a weekend hiking, because it just literally helps me reset and recharge and ready for the following week, so to speak, which in this industry you need at times.
Indeed. Brilliant. Well, that just about wraps up our conversation, Tony. I really appreciate you joining me.
No, thank you for having me.
Enlightening, mate, in finding out a little bit more about you, your path within the industry, and the people that have helped shape that, and your perception of what the industry can do to bring more people into it, and slightly looking at diverse people that have got skill sets that can be transferable. So good speaking to you, mate. Really appreciate it.
Likewise,
looking forward to this. So
thank you for your time.
I'd like to thank you for your time, and we'll wrap it up there. But it's been good. I really appreciate it, mate.
Yeah, thanks very much.